Gender-based violence is when someone is harmed because of their gender identity, or their sexual orientation. Violence against women is obviously a key part of that definition, but women are not the only ones at risk. People who identify as transgender or non-binary, 3 out of 5 people are likely to experience gender-based violence. And women themselves are not at the same amount of risk. So women who have disabilities are 3 times more likely to experience gender-based violence, and Indigenous women are 6 times more likely to experience gender-based violence. Other members of the LGBTQ plus community are also at a greater risk of experiencing this violence. So all of this means that many of us have either experienced gender-based violence ourselves, or we know and care about someone who has. So it's important that we talk about it, raise awareness about it, know that it actually does happen here in the Annapolis Valley, and what we can do to stop it, as well as what resources are available if someone we care about comes to us with this issue. The Women's Place Resource Center recently did a public opinion survey on gender-based violence in the Annapolis Valley because we wanted to see what people knew about it and what kind of resources they were aware of. From that information, we're going to make up some different programs. We're going to look at what's needed for resources in the Annapolis Valley. And we're going to really start having some good, honest, respectful conversations about gender-based violence in the community. Can you tell us a bit about your experience with gender-based violence?
The first time I had an experience with gender-based violence was when I was about 12 or 13. It was with a close friend of my family's. The second time that I experienced it, I was approximately 15. And at that time, I held all of that very close to my chest and didn't talk about it. And I found that due to that, later on, things came up without me wanting them to. And it was because I imploded everything that I became very disrupted mentally and emotionally due to that. And since then, I have experienced it in the workplace through a boss, that was a male, and just witnessing it, with other people and things that other people go through and that are subjected to.
So what did you do to start healing from this violence?
I opened up about it, and I was terrified to do that. And in order for me to figure out that I needed the strength and courage to be able to talk about it was what got me started on my healing journey. Seeing professionals to help me through that, having a diagnosis of PTSD from what I had gone through because I didn't have the proper supports and didn't talk about it. So I didn't really know what was going on at the time until, I thought maybe I was losing my mind. And then when I got to see professionals, I realized, no, there's actually, some underlying issues going on due to the trauma that I had experienced. And therapy, talking with friends, talking with other women that have been through those same experiences, and realizing that a lot of us, every story is individual, but a lot of us end up going through some of the similar emotional and mental struggles due to that. So with making those steps with therapy and things like that and talking about it is what got me through it. And it wasn't linear. It wasn't a straight line to the end, so you're all over the place with it, but with time and patience and working at it, it actually made me be able to heal.
Anything else that you want others to know about gender-based violence?
That if we all as community come together and find other supports than just therapy, for instance, like a peer support group that the Women's Place has, or just having supports for people to just listen to and know that you're not alone in the pain and struggle when you've been affected by it.
Tell us a little bit about your experience with gender-based violence.
So, with gender-based violence, I found that I didn't know it was happening until after it had happened. It was something that I was at a disadvantage about with a lack of knowledge. For myself, I experienced it in the workplace. I experienced it in the communities I've been in. I've experienced it here in the Valley. Also, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I've experienced it. Personally, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, and I've seen it happen to many other women and those who identify as women as well, especially around here.
How does that impact you on a day-to-day basis?
It makes me feel really sad that we're still at this point in the world, that this is still an issue that we need to bring to the table. I would have hoped we would have been further along by now. Clearly we're not. And it is, again, that lack of knowledge and that disadvantage of not knowing what it is until it happens to you or you've seen it happen to somebody else, right? So it is something that needs to be talked about. And as women, we need to come forward and we need to tell our stories. We need to talk to our friends. We need to let others know what's happening.
What did you do to start healing from this kind of violence?
It took me a very long time to just admit it to myself after like the first incident. And it really took like a breakdown in my mental health for me to realize that I needed help. So I had to seek out supports for myself and start therapy. And it was through all that I realized I wanted to help other women because it was what I had wanted. And I had nobody and I didn't know where to reach. So therapy was a good place to start, but if there had been more known supports around, I definitely would have taken advantage of those as well. That's what we need now, is more supports.
What do you want others to know about gender-based violence?
That this is not a new thing. It happens every day. It happens everywhere, not just here in the Annapolis Valley. And we can't just keep closing our eyes to this. It's not going to get better. We need to empower women. We need to empower ourselves. We have to bring this to the forefront. We have to stop this. It's not new, but it needs to end.
What do you want others to know about gender-based violence?
That this is not a new thing. It happens every day. It happens everywhere, not just here in the Annapolis Valley. We can't just keep closing our eyes to this.
important. I think it's important to look back over time and basically gain some perspective in terms of we have made progress. Day to day, sometimes it's hard to remember that, just because the work is heavy and it's difficult work and it takes a toll on everyone. But I think to remember that we are making progress. I remember when I started a number of years ago, transition houses, locations of transition houses, it was kept very quiet for the safety and protection of women. But it is now, it's completely unacceptable in our communities to approach a transition house or a women's organization, from a place of threat. So I think that that's a really positive change, that it helps women feel supported. It helps women feel like there is a safe place to go. Gender-based violence is now something that people are talking about and really having good conversations in terms of how do we stop this. Just in the last, few weeks, our government basically coming out and saying gender-based violence is an epidemic. Not that that's a good thing, it's not a good thing, but it's been an epidemic for a very long time, and the fact that our government is now acknowledging that and, saying something has to happen. We have to make some changes. That's so important. I also feel a great hope with our young people. I think that in some ways, our young people can teach us a lot right now, because I feel sometimes like our older generations are the ones that are in catch-up mode. Our younger generations are almost, when it comes to transgendered issues and the LGBTQ2S+ issues, young people are there. They're like, why are you having this conversation? This is, and I'm not saying everyone. I recognize that there's obviously lots of issues and things confronting people, but I feel a great hope in that. I think some of the conversations I've heard from our youth is that, come on, catch up. That we have to catch up. They've got it. They're open, they're supportive about it, and I think that will move us forward, and that will make the change. And I think that change is inevitable, and we have to. We have to.